So RFK Jr., as you all know, is a trip, man. This guy is out there, dog. My favorite RFK moment from this election season is when he was on a podcast and he was accused of being on Epstein's jet. And he was like, of course I was on Epstein's jet. I mean, look, man, I've hung out with Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and whatever, Roman Polanski, I don't know. Just like name 17 fucking famous predators. And he's like, look, they were those. I was with those guys all the time growing up. Like all the celebrities and stuff. It's so funny when you're accused of having these like terrible connections. You're like, it's even worse than you think, bro. Oh God. You know, it's funny because the weird label works so well for Republicans, but look, you got to keep it real. It might fit even better for RFK Jr., man. It might fit even better for RFK Jr. Then, of course, there was that story about the brain worm. Remember? He admitted he had a brain worm, which just opened up a torrent of political attacks. So anyway, he apparently was hanging out with Roseanne Barr, which, by the way, that is the reddest of red flags I've ever seen in my life. That's like fill a room with red flags, and that's not enough red flags to denote how red flaggy this red flagness is, okay? So he's hanging out with Roseanne Barr, the ultimate conspiracy theorist. And he thinks this is him trying to get ahead of a story that the New Yorker runs. And apparently he knew they got information on a scandal involving him. He wanted to get out ahead of it. So he records this video and releases it. And there's so many funny parts about this. So let's watch. Then we'll break it down further. And I read the entire article, and I'll walk you through that too, the New York Post article. I'll give you a summary of it. But I don't know what the fuck he's thinking here, bro. I do not know what he's thinking here. Here we go.
I was taking a group of people falconing up in Goshen, New York, up in the Hudson Valley. And I was supposed to meet them there, like maybe 8 or 9. I was driving up maybe, really early, like 7. A woman in a van in front of me hit a bear and killed it, a young bear. So I pulled over and I picked up the bear and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear. And it was very good condition, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for a roadkill bear. And so then I have to interject already because, like, you found a roadkill bear and your instinct was, I should skin this and eat this. Well, gee, I wonder how you got a literal brain worm, dude. On the list of shit to not eat, roadkill bear has to be near the very top. What are you doing? Just cruising around looking for random roadkill to eat? What the fuck? All right, let's continue. Even Roseanne's face. Look at her face. Roseanne's face is like, bro, what the fuck are you babbling about, dog? Like, where's this story going? Look, Roseanne even thinks you're a freak, bro. For a roadkill bear. And so then we went hawking, and I had the bear in my car. And then we had a really good day, and we went late. We were catching a lot of game, and the people really loved it, so we stayed late. And instead of going back to my home in Westchester, I had to go right to the city because there was a dinner at Peter Luger's Steakhouse. And at the end of the dinner, it went late, and I realized I couldn't go home. I had to go to the airport. And the bear was in my car, and I didn't want to leave the bear in the car because that would have been bad. So then I thought, at that time, this was the little bit of the redneck in me. There'd been a series of bicycle accidents in New York. They had just put in the bike lanes, and saw a couple of people had gotten killed, and it was every day, and people had gotten badly injured. Every day it was in the press. And so I thought, I wasn't drinking, of course, but people were drinking with me who thought this was a good idea. And I said, I had an old bike in my car that somebody had asked me to get rid of. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look like he got hit by a bike. It'll be fun and funny for people. So everybody thought that's a great idea. So we went and did that, and we thought it would be amusing for whoever found it or something. The next day, it was like, it was on every television station. It was the front page of every paper. And I turned on the TV and there was like a mile of yellow tape and there were 20 cop cars. There were helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And then there was some people on TV in tie-back suits with gloves on lifting up the bike, and they're saying they're going to take this up to Albany to get it fingerprinted. Uh-oh. And I was worried because my prints were all over that bike. Luckily, the story died down after a while, And it stayed dead for a decade. And the New Yorker somehow found out about it, and they're going to do a big article on me, and that's one of the articles. So they asked me, the fact checker said, it's going to be a bad story.
I think it's a great story.
I love this tweet. This is like one of my favorite tweets of all time. So RFK says, looking forward to see how you spin this one, New Yorker. They ain't got to spin Dickie McGee's axe, homie. That shit is bad enough with just a dry-ass retelling of it. How you spin this one. People all over Twitter are like, who among us hasn't been driving in a car, come across a dead bear, put the dead bear in your trunk to skin it and eat it, then keep it in there too long, then realize, hey, we should play a prank and dump it in Central Park with a bike to make it look like an accident. Like, what the fuck? Bro, what the fuck? What the fuck? So now, as I told you guys, I read the entire New Yorker article. What's kind of funny is that you can read it yourself and you could judge it yourself. But honestly, my impression of the article is it's just sort of like a dry retelling of his life, right? It just goes through his life. And it doesn't, it paints him as weird, but it's because objectively, based on the things that happened in his life and the decisions he made, and there's a lot of tragedy in it too, which is sad. But yeah, it's just like, no, he's a little weird. And there's a lot of things I didn't know in that article. I knew that he was a serial philanderer. I knew that. And I knew that he kept a diary of it, and one of his ex-wives found it, and she was dealing with a lot of psychological issues. She ended up killing herself. Really, really sad. So I knew about the serial philandering, that he was kind of like a sex addict. I did not know how severe his drug addiction was. I had no idea. And it really gets into, what it was like. Because look, he had a tragic, seeing all your family members around you get murked one after the other. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's got to be rough. And so he turned to drugs. And there was one part, I don't know if this one has been publicly known before, but he was on a plane to go to rehab to finally get set straight. And on the plane ride, he goes into the bathroom, shoots up heroin, and overdoses, and needs to be saved before going to rehab. And apparently all throughout college, he was doing speedballs. For those of you who don't know the drug lingo, that's a massive upper and a massive downer at the same time, and you try to sort of balance it out with the low and the high, and it'll, there's a sense of euphoria that comes with it. But he spent a lot of time doing a lot of fucking drugs and having a lot of sex. And look, it all, could I overlook those sorts of issues, assuming somebody has the right policy positions? Honestly, yeah. And maybe I'm a little more liberal or libertine than your average person on that front. If you got your demons under control and you got your vices down to a respectable level, as long as you got the right policy positions, I'm fine with it. But, once you actually get into his policy stuff, he's an enigma, right? He said, oh, I'm anti-war, but then it's, don't help Ukraine defeat Russia, but also let's give all the money and all the weapons in the world to Israel for them to do their genocide. Okay, well, then you're just as big of a warmonger as a lot of the people who you call warmongers. I don't know what you want me to tell you. That's a neocon position. It's very, very clear. And he went from being, basically a liberal celebrity who was all about environmentalism. Then he sort of became, the leading anti-vax activist in the country. By the way, it explains the origins of him becoming anti-vax. It was literally some psycho woman. He showed up to his doorstep with all these papers and was like, you got to read this stuff, bro. You got to read this stuff. And eventually he did. And then he became a massive anti-vaxxer. They get into an article he wrote for Rolling Stone that when it was fact-checked, it was like the overwhelming majority of the stuff he claimed in there was just totally untrue. So you got the anti-vax stuff. And look, also his whole thing, he sucks off the free market all the time. And it's like, I don't know if you know this, but this is actually not in the spirit of your family's tradition, right? He likes to think he's the heir apparent to the Kennedy throne. But no, when you're saying the answer to all this pollution and environmental destruction is better free market capitalism, right? No, that's actually the problem. The problem is that free market capitalism leads to externalities. You have to regulate those externalities with the government. You can't say we need a more perfect free market. A perfect free market results in pollution because externalities are a natural side effect of a laissez-faire, unfettered free market capitalist system. So look, he ain't there on the policy, and then Beyond that, he's just kind of a weird-ass dude. So, no, Robert F. Kennedy, nobody has to spin anything to make this look weird. This shit is just fucking weird. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.